Alright guys, guess what? It's time for another project. I know it's been a little while since I put up a vid, and this is why. Those of you that watch my vids probably know that I had bought a really nice Super Whammodyne beast of a computer about a month and a half ago. Well, the problem was it was practically DOA when I got it, and I had to deal with the manufacturer to ultimately get the thing replaced. Well, it took them about a month to get the thing back to me, actually closer to a month and a half. And that's partly because I ordered a custom machine and they build them one at a time. And also the model that I ordered, that I had originally bought, they superseded with another model, so they had to get that one prepared for me. But finally I have it. It's taken me some time to get it set up and get everything going. And now I'm ready to start doing videos with that thing. Now this video that you're going to see today was actually processed on my work computer, most of it was. And I wasn't using the video software that I like to use. And some of the quality is pretty crummy. Plus, a lot of the video that I shot for this, I actually shot way back in February. This is a project for someone else. And I'm just now beginning to work on the project itself. So I didn't want to put any videos up until I got ready to work on it. The thing about that is that these being older videos, for me, a few months is old. They're not the greatest video quality. I've learned a thing or two since then. I'm still not great, but I've learned a thing or two. And so you'll find that maybe this video doesn't have the greatest sound quality. There's less use of a tripod than there should be. I hope you'll forgive that stuff and be able to use the information that I provide if you're working on a radio like this. Now the radio that we're going to work on is one very similar to this guy right here. This is a 461209. This radio belongs to me. These radios in here belong to me. And but it's very, very similar in almost every way to the one we're going to work on, which is a 471230. Now the 471230 has one thing that this radio does not, and that is FM. It has FM. This radio has basically AM and a shortwave band up to 15.5 megahertz, which is the same shortwave that's on the 1230. So the 1230 has AM, FM, and shortwave, which is something that's somewhat unusual for radios. There's a short period after the war where you'll find some radios like that. Magnavox produced some, Philco produced some, Zenith produced some. So there are a few, but there aren't that many around. Otherwise, the radio is nearly identical to this. It's the same cabinet, the same construction, even the same record changer. So what I'm going to do is I'll keep this one handy as a reference if I get stuck. And I just kind of wanted to show you what the cabinet looked like a little more. I show it in the video too, but I'll keep this cabinet around. And you'll see it in the video, but just in case, there's a sort of record changer that you get. As you can see, I've got the magnetic cartridge pulled out of this thing, and I was doing a little bit of checking on it. I'm going to figure out a way to make these Maggie cartridges work if I can, but for right now, I'm not going to do that with this, fellas. So we are going to get to work on disassembling this. I'm keeping the old video because even though the video quality is not my favorite, the information that I share in that video I think is good information. The thing I've noticed about YouTube with radio videos is there are a lot of folks that are showing some awesome stuff on working on a chassis, but there aren't a whole lot of videos that I've seen where folks show how they get the chassis and the other pieces out of a cabinet, how they do the other mechanical stuff, mechanical adjustments and things like that, and then how to put all that back in. So I kind of like to show that stuff because when I get questions from folks, or when I have questions, those are the kinds of things that I often have questions about. Hey, how does this go together? How do you put this together without breaking it? You know, how does this fit? That sort of thing. How can I reproduce this particular part since it's not available? How can I make something that'll work? All of those mechanical questions are often kind of given a back seat on YouTube, and I'd like to change that just a little bit if I can, at least contribute to it. So that's why I want to keep this video that I've shot for today, because it does have that sort of information in there. Now granted, I don't use very many close-up shots, and I go off camera a lot, and the sound is horrible and all these things, But if you'll tolerate that just for the next video or two, I promise you the videos will get back to standard here and will be improving over the next few months. So without holding us up anymore, let's dive in to a 1947 Philco 47-1230. What we are looking at is an upcoming project for a customer. This is a Philco, obviously, radio record player. It is a 47-1230. I have a 46-1209. This is virtually identical to that, except that this also has FM. My 1209 has AM and shortwave. This has AM, shortwave, and FM. So that's pretty cool. It's got a dial that's almost identical to that with the same sorts of push buttons up here. And in many, many ways, it's just like a 1209, which I did one of those, a demo of one of those in one of my old YouTube videos. So check it out if you're curious what they look like when they're running. This one's in pretty good shape. Cabinet's in nice shape. Now this is how the record player opens. You've seen this before, again, on the 46-1209. And the only issue I see right up front is that it looks like it has that early Philco magnetic cartridge. So I'll have to figure out what to do about that. I need to find a permanent solution for that because I've run into that 3 times now. And I do not know, I mean, there are no magnetic cartridges available, and I do not know exactly what is the best approach for replacing them. The fellow I did the 1209 for wanted a different record changer. His record changer had a different mechanical problem, and so we changed it out with one that had a ceramic cartridge. But we'll take a look at this and see. Again, it has that chassis that's very similar to the 46-1209 in that it has the little RF sub-chassis built into the main chassis, which is an idea that wasn't new to Philco, as you folks that have done 36 and 37 Philcos know. There's the sticker. You see up close, it's a little bit dirty, dusty, that kind of thing. Nothing I can't handle. This one does have a back cover on it, and I do believe that's original. There'll be some early FM stuff in there that I'll have to contend with. If the alignment is good and it works, I'll leave it be. That's always the case with FM. The alignment seldom drifts on them. But when it does, you know, then they're a pain in the behind to make right. These have a decent transformer. Everything about these is nice. These radios is nice. Okie dokie. First things first. How about we get these knobs off of here? That's easy. I like that when they just slip right off. This faceplate here is part of the radio. It does not come off, in other words. It is, I believe, it might be screwed on from the backside. I'm not sure, but I never ever tried to remove those. The glass, if you ever want to get it out, you have to get out from the back side. So what I will begin on the back now. I'll need to access it to get the chassis out. I need to get to it from the back. I'm willing to bet this has one of those large wire loop antennas, but we'll see. See? There's a floor monster out here too, by the way. We're out in my spray shop, and there's a floor monster out here as well. It's not as bad as the floor monster in the electronics shop, but it's awfully dusty out here. I haven't done a lot of work out here this winter. It's been a cold winter in Salt Lake City with a lot of snow, and even though it's heated out here, the sound of the heater running all the time drives me nuts. Some of these screws have pretty worn out little slots in them, so I'll probably be replacing them anyhow, but I'll save them just in case. Put everything in baggies right away. And then label it right away. I figured I better take advantage of being out here now before all the dogs from my idiot neighbors start barking. One of my favorite things to do is I get up early, and after their dogs have barked all night, I like to get outside about 4 in the morning and start making a lot of noise and banging stuff around. Like I'll take out my garbage at 4 in the morning. Maybe I'll clean my shop and blow it out with the air hose at 4 in the morning. I do all that to get their dogs all riled up, so at least wakes them up. I figure that's payback. All right, what a mess. Wow. Ooh, I hate spiders. And there's spider webs in here. Yeah. Okay, like I said, one of those loop antennas. I like these things, and they're really pretty cool, and they work terrific. They're great antennas. I'm going to do it off camera, but I'm going to do another little blowing session with the air hose and blow these spider webs out of here because I do not want to be around them. I don't care if there are no spiders in there. I don't even like their webs. Okay, let's loosen up this antenna connector. Now, that connector goes into this little plug here, the one for this big loop. And then you also have, that's for this cabinet loop. And then for this built-in loop right here, this metal one, you have a black wire and a white wire. The black wire goes to the center terminal. There are little hooks on the wires, really slick. The white wire goes to the terminal on the left. All right, let's go ahead and unplug the record player. This is record player power. Then you have, let's see, a speaker connector down here at the speaker. Just disconnect that and let that lay for a minute. And then there's also a pair of wires that come down here and go to this little switch that turns a light on when you open the door. It's right up here at the very top, just above the opening for the door is a light. And it connects down here to a light switch. And the best approach, since I'm going to want to check that switch out, is got a little spring on it that pulls the switch to operate. The spring itself is self-returning, or the switch itself is self-returning. This one's all dirty, so it's sticky, but there's a spring on it so that you can't damage the switch by pulling the door open too far or anything like that. I'll go ahead and get that out of here. And I got to disconnect that spring. I'll see. If I remember right, it's hard to get out. You can't really remove it from the switch easily, but that's okay. You just remove it from the cabinet. Okay, there is that record player switch. It's got some electrical tape nonsense going on. Well, I'm going to wind up replacing this wiring, I think. Yeah. I know that's a magnetic cartridge now because there is an impedance matching transformer built into this cabinet. The Philco used those transformers for these cartridges. Which might mean, I never thought about it before, that might mean that if they're trying to match the impedance of the chassis, it might mean that a ceramic cartridge without that transformer might work just fine. I'll test that on the bench. If that works, that solves a big problem because I can remove that magnetic cartridge and put a ceramic crystal cartridge replacement kit from Voice of Music, put that in there in its place, and that would work fine. That never occurred to me before, but I'm going to give that a shot. If it doesn't work, well, it might set me on the right track. Okay, so I want to disconnect this transformer, which has got it's got a weird plug set up here. Oh, wait. There we go. This signal off to the receiver from the transformer has an RCA plug on it. It's got the female part is on the cable from the receiver, and then the transformer has the male part of the RCA. It looks pretty shot. I'll probably have to replace that RCA. I'm going to go ahead and pull that transformer out because I'm going to need it for some testing. And chances are good that it won't need to be back in here. Magnetic cartridges, they were fiddling with it, I think all the way back to the 30s. Well, obviously the early horseshoe magnet reproducers, you know, but I'm talking about the cartridges. Okay, so this is basically a little cast iron body, and It basically says Philco, and it gives a trademark, a registration. It's registered trademark, made in USA. Then it has a number 32 on the first line of numbers, the number 8256 on the second line of numbers, and the number 352716 on the third line. This whole record player frame is loose in the machine. I would rather repair it without the record player sitting in it. All right, speaker appears to be in really nice condition. It's got a 4-prong male plug connector right here, with two of the prongs closer together than the other two. The little wooden block that provides the bottom support for this loop antenna has broken loose from the cabinet, so I'll have to re-glue that. So I need to remove the top, and I might have to wait until I have the record changer out. I think I'll do just that. All right, so now this record changer, I have to get that out. These nuts are snugged up against the spring tension pretty tightly. They're up most of the way on the screws, so okay, so I will remove these nuts. I think they're speedy nuts. Yep, they're speedy nuts. They're concave facing down, guys. I hate these things. But they are open side down. These little suckers are hard to get out. This is a little spring retainer. The cylinder part faces upward into the spring, and then the spring is tapered with the narrow part of the taper facing the bottom and the wide part of the taper pressed up against the bottom of the record changer, so it's facing up. So it looks just like that when it's mounted. All right, see what has to happen. You compress the table down, and then you grab that retainer and you turn it, and it's not easy because it's kind of sharp and it hurts your skin. And you're also turning against the pressure of that spring, which makes it kind of hard to turn sometimes, especially the ones at the front end were bad, naturally. The ones at the back end that are easy to reach are never the hard ones. I think I'll oil them before I put it together. May even put a little anti-seize on them, so that next time someone has to get into this thing, it's not quite such a fight. There we go. Okay. All the springs, all the turntable retainers and springs at the bottom side of the turntable are out. They'll be in their own separate bag from the top springs, and I'll label them right now. All right, I have to make sure everything is unhooked. You got these damn stapled in paper tags to hold it in place, which makes it no fun. So I'm pulling the power cable out. Signal cable is out. Should be power and signal is all there is to it. This should lift right up off of that frame now. There we go. We will study this downstairs. Right now I'm going to set it aside. All right, if you look at the top of this frame where the turntable mounts, where the record player mounts, there's these springs fit in here. They're the reverse of the other ones. They're shaped the same way, only the fat side touches, the big side touches the the frame from the top side. So you have the cone tapering to the narrow going up on the top of the frame, and the cone tapering to the narrow going down on the bottom of the frame. These, on the frame, there are these little tangs that are kind of punched into the frame. They're like little hooks, and the spring hooks in those things to kind of keep it in place and locate it properly. So be aware of that if you're reinstalling springs into one of these. And they'll fight you getting out too, by the way. But that's okay. That just means they won't fall out when you're working with them. But they will fall out sometimes if you're not paying attention, so you want to get them out yourself and bag them up. Okay, I want to restore, along with the record changer, when I polish it, I'm going to want to polish this frame. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, but I'm going to leave this mechanism in here. These are fine. I'll clean those up when I put it back together. I could remove that too, but I don't see the point. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this frame. I need, it looks like a 1/4 inch nut driver. These can be pretty tight if they've never been removed. I remember that from the last one we did. All right, and then there are these flathead screws that screw into the door for the 2 front mounts for these. These are pivot mounts. I'll go ahead and remove those, and this thing, once I remove the nuts, it should drop right out. This was a well-designed radio. I think Philco had been doing their homework, and I wish they had stuck with this vertical style, but right around 1947, 48, 49, all the radio companies were starting to change from these vertical console cabinets to the horizontal boxy ones that came in the really late 40s and early 50s. RCA, I think, had already transitioned over to those boxy ones, because I have some 47 RCAs, 48 RCAs that are real boxy. But Philco stuck it out with this style for a couple of years, and then they switched all their stuff to the more boxy ones. The boxy ones sound really good, but they're not nearly as pretty. Okay, 2 more screws, and this thing will come right out. Here's the last screw, and I'll lift this frame right out of here, and then I'll be finished with the record changer mount. So that's all there is to it. It's a real simple frame. It's got these pivot mounts right here. Ooh, they're tight, they're stiff. This thing should be real smooth, and that door should open with very little effort, and I remembered it was a little bit tougher to open, so that'll help. It was tempting to just leave that in there, you know, but you want to polish this thing up. I'll help with that. I'll do that. No, I'll do that stuff.
Sweetheart, I'm feeling fine.
Yeah, well, you won't be if you push it.
I'm not pushing it.
I'm the boss.
No, you're not.
Yes.
You were the boss last week.
No, I didn't get to be the boss last week. I haven't been the boss in 21 years. This is my first. This is my time. I want to remove this loop antenna now, and I think what I need to do is take this screw out. It's pretty easy. Because this antenna is designed to pivot, what we have for mounting it are 2 flat washers, fender washers, and a spring washer in between, so that it provides some pressure without having to make it so tight that it can't rotate. Okay, let's get this chassis out, shall we? Oh, it's pretty loose. I won't even need to turn a wrench on this, I don't think. Always makes me nervous when I find a loose chassis. There are 4 of them. On this radio, all 4 are loose. Isn't that special? One of the things I do not like about this vintage of Philco is they made extensive use of Loctile tubes, and I don't really care for Loctile tubes. There are some octils though, you can see them here, but then there's Loctiles too. And for some reason I never seem to have just the right Loctile tube when the one is bad. You have to be careful when you're loosening this chassis because it sits on this incline, and it'll want to come out in your arms when you take the last screw out. So you want to be real careful about that. Kind of be ready for it if you can. So what that means is get all 4 of them loose so that you're not fighting with that last tight one while the other 3 are loose. That would be a bad thing to do. All right, now I've got the last one almost out, so I want to check and make sure it's going to lift out the way I need it to. Yep. Sometimes they get stuck and you don't want any surprises. So I grabbed the transformer and I grabbed this side. Lift a little bit and bring it out. And then you got this cable set up, which I wish I had thought to pull loose. I should have brought these up to the top before I started. I forgot the lamp wires. See, this is exactly what I was warning you of, and I went and did it myself. By the way, this chassis becomes, or this cabinet becomes real tip happy when you're doing this. It wants to tip over. There we go. I'll show that to you in just a minute. Power comes into the radio right here, and then the line cord just sort of goes under here and connects to the 2 sides of this capacitor block. And in usual Philco fashion, the line capacitors are built into this block. So usually I pull these blocks out, I melt the tar in my toaster oven, and I get the tar out of it, and I clean the block out and put a couple of safety capacitors in there and call it good. I believe that that's the only Bakelite block in this radio, so that's good because I really don't like those things. So let me clip this so I can power this up. Let me see here. Maybe I can power it up from the outside. Let me take a look here. I really don't want to go attaching underneath the radio and then laying the radio down. Maybe I'll get lucky here. I'll know right away when I watch the ammeter on the Variac if I'm shortened. So, wow. I think I'm okay though, believe it or not. So, if I'm real careful about it, which I will be, I'll just connect up with gator clips to right here and to the other side. Alright, so I think that'll work. I'll just connect power up real gingerly to those 2 wires. Other than that, I think I'm good to try it. No reason not to. Let's lower it down a little bit so we can watch the yikes. right, let's give her a shot. Okay, that's radio. That's on off right there. So this is phono radio. That's right. Okay, so some of them that's the power switch. All right, let's try this. We'll turn on the isolation transformer. Okay, variac's all the way down. Let's turn on the variac. Oh, wait a minute. What am I thinking? Can't do anything without hooking up power. Alright guys, what I'm doing right now is something that you should never do unless you are totally comfortable and experienced at working with line power. And what I mean by that is power that comes out of your wall. So what I'm going to do is take I have a cord that I've made with alligator clips with a receptacle plug on one end so that I can hook line power up with these alligator clips. But here's the thing: if you are not comfortable and have reasonable electrical an understanding of electricity and what the hazards are, you shouldn't be doing this. Okay, replace the cord and plug it in normally with a fuse, preferably. But I'm going to bring it up slowly in a variac. So what I'm doing is okay, because what I'm going to be watching is the current right here on the ammeter. If the current goes up fast or suddenly, then I know I have either a short or a low resistance path to ground, and that's a bad thing. Or line, line to neutral. In any event, I will shut the power down to the variac very quickly if that's the case. So I'm going to be turning this up, and you watch your radio and I'll watch the gauges, and we'll see what we come up with, okay? Variac is on. Current's coming up some, but not much. 60 volts. 60 volts. I have lights. Alright, 60 volts and less than a half an amp, we're okay. 70 volts. 80 volts, about a half an amp. 90 volts. Now we're better than half an amp. We're not quite 90 volts yet. Let it sit there and cook for a minute and see if I get anything out of the speaker. I hear static from the speaker. Alright. Let's come up just a little more. That means the radio is on instead of the phono. 100 volts, and we're sitting at 0.7 amps. There we go. Okay, I do not have an antenna hooked up.
Okay, then go back to see.
Very distorted.
Me that I offer here on the radio show. They've told me they've met with somebody else and they were given this advice for Social Security.
But
they went over to Social.
Okay, it's very distorted. But you see what we have here. I'm at about almost 110 volts, and I'm sitting at about 0.7 amps. That current's a little bit high, but it's nothing that surprises me for an unrestored radio. And I have audio output, and I pick up stations. So the RF stage is working, and the audio stage is working, and the audio frequency stage is working. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it on the shortwave, actually on the FM real quick, and see if I can get anything on the FM.
Office, if they help you out and get you, help you get applied for your benefits, things like that, say thank you to them. Yeah, but.
Okay, I don't know if that's AM or if that's shortwave or FM. Little catch in the. There we go. I think that's probably... I will say this, though. Knowing what I know about these early FM radios, they probably shares the IF. So AM and FM will be at least partially through the same IF transformers. So I'm not going to sweat it. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and shut this demo down. I know that it's...
As when he's writing about...
I know that it's capable of working, and that's all I'm out to establish right now. Alright guys, I think this video has gone on long enough for an intro video. Let's wrap it up and we'll dive into the record changer next time. What do you say? We'll hit that pretty hard. I've still got a couple parts that are on the way. I made some mistakes when I ordered parts, so I'm fixing that right now. I'm already working on the chassis, but you won't see that in the next video, probably the one after that. So for now, it's a Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to go upstairs and have dinner with wifey. So from your Western Outpost in Salt Lake City, this is Michael, and that's all for now.